Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my channel. This is episode 2 of Who's a Better Sleuth, me or Doreen? I know this series is not everyone's cup of tea, but I had to return to it. I see all your comments telling me to do this with better, more sophisticated mystery series where I can actually solve the crime. But I only think that this is entertaining to me because I get to go all of the places that the book mentions because it's set where I live. So today I'll be reading Bones in the Begonias by Dale Meyer, the second book in the Lovely Lethal Gardens series. I'm starting it at home today because I cannot be out of the house in like 35-degree weather the entire time I'm going to be reading this. So I'm going to start it, and as soon as it mentions a location, then I will head out to that location. All I know is it better end up at the lake at some point because the fact that this is set in Kelowna and the first book didn't mention Okanagan Lake at all is devastating. And all I want to do today is go to the beach or get in the water in some capacity. My husband is also working outside all day on a roof, so we're gonna meet up after work and get into a body of water, whatever that may be. And maybe this can make that decision for me. So let's catch up on our protagonist, Doreen. She's a woman in her 30s. As am I. She's new to Kelowna. I'm old to Kelowna. She's recently divorced. I'm still hanging on. She comes from wealth. I'm just hanging on. She has become buddies with her local law enforcement. I decidedly have not. So far, she is edging me out in likelihood of solving the mystery before me because she has much more free time as she doesn't have a job or children. But we both have 275 pages to solve this mystery of whose bones are in the begonias or who's responsible for the bones in the begonias. In the first book, she inherited this property from her grandmother who is living at a retirement home down the street now. She has 3 pets, a cat, a dog, and a parrot. The parrot I thought was going to help solve the mystery of the first book. It didn't happen, but there is potential for future installments because what else is the point of the parrot parroting what people are saying unless it's going to be a clue? So after she leaves her wealthy husband behind in Vancouver, she inherits this house from her grandmother and they find a dead body under the porch in the garden, and it turns out to be connected to this other case, and they solved this cold case from a long time ago. I think I gave that book a 2. I don't see why this would get any higher of a rating. Now in this one, she's beginning maybe this part-time job where she's gonna do some gardening work for her now buddy cop detective guy Mac's mother who can't take care of her garden anymore. And at the very end of the last book, it gave a little glimpse into what happens in this one where she goes to do some gardening and she finds bones. Mac doesn't want her to have anything to do with it because he's a detective and is actually solving crimes, and Doreen is just inserting herself into these investigations constantly. It does say at the end, Doreen's grandmother Nan sets odds and places bets on who solves the crime first. I'm betting on me. So let's begin. Pages in, we've gotten our mystery. We have not left Doreen's house or her yard. Liam's currently making me lunch. What are you making lunch for? Me? Oh, Doreen's whole thing is she's kind of a local celebrity now because she found this dead body and helped solve this case. So now everybody around her is like, you're bringing bad vibes into the neighborhood, and they all want to talk to her about it and get mad at her for something. So we haven't gone anywhere yet, which is okay because it's nice and cool in the house. She found fruit trees in her backyard, and one of them was a cherry tree, and we just picked cherries yesterday. So the official mystery has been introduced, I think. We have Betty Miles. So in the first book, we met Doreen, her Nan, we have Mac the detective, we have some neighbors, and we have the pets. And now we're introducing Betty Miles, who is this woman who went missing or died 30 years ago. The case has never been solved. And Doreen is in the creek that backs onto her property, Mission Creek, and she finds a box engraved Betty Miles. And while she's back there, she reads the name out loud, and a neighbor who she can't see goes, "Betty Miles? I haven't heard that name in 30 years. Don't go talking about that name." And it talks about how Betty was a girl from like the bad part of the mission. I don't know where that would be. Then a year after she went missing, a hand with a ring on it was found in the creek. And then she learns from someone else that Betty had this best friend, Hannah, who gave her a ring. And that was like the rumor that she had given her this ring. Other than learning that, we've just had Doreen learning how to live in her house and use a stove. Mac has shown up and taught her how to use a gas stove, and then the bird came home one day with blood on its foot. So if I'm building my theory, we have Betty who's dead, and we have bones that were found in Mac's mom's garden, but we don't know if they were even human apparently, or where they belong, who they belong to. So I guess we're to assume it's Betty, and the box belonged to Betty, and since we only know Hannah, I guess Hannah, her best friend, killed her. I mean, she was probably in love with her or jealous of her. Which one do you think it is? I'm gonna say they were lovers. I don't know if Dale Meyer would introduce that kind of plot, but that's what I'm going off of. They were best friends, but they were secretly lovers. And Hannah was jealous of Betty for something and killed her. And then buried her in Mac's mother's garden. I did it. I solved the mystery.
No.
How could you accuse me of not solving the mystery?
You're not a detective.
I guess I do have 200 more pages to read, so.
Exactly.
I'll be back. Oh my God, Doreen was just at her house, like was just about to walk in her front door, and this woman comes up behind her and slaps her across the face and says, "You can stop asking questions about Betty Miles," and then leaves. So we're in chapter 12 now, and it's pretty much just been Doreen asking everybody questions about this Betty Miles case. So she's walking around asking neighbors, asking the police, asking her nan, who was she, where do you think she went, like just chatting about her. And then I guess this woman heard her ask questions and just came up and smacked her. And then in the next chapter, she goes to Mac, the police officer, and is like, "I just got assaulted." And Mac's response is like, she probably knew Betty back in the day and was offended. You were, you know, trying to figure stuff out. And so then she goes and tells her nan, she's like, "I was just assaulted." And her nan's like, "You sure are livening things up around here." Like, I'm sorry. It is hard to like Doreen. I will admit, she's not, I talked about this in the first book, she's not really an enjoyable character to be reading from, but she just got slapped by a stranger at her own house. And everyone's like, "Weird, how quirky of you." But now just into chapter 13, I see that Doreen is heading to the grocery store. Mac is very concerned about her having the ability to, she can't cook for herself, but she can't even like afford groceries. So he's constantly like, "You need to eat." And she's like, "I don't know how to cook. I don't have enough money to order food." And he's like, "You need to eat." And so she's like, "I'll go to the grocery store, get cheese and crackers." So we're almost halfway through the book, and I feel like I at least have to go to the grocery store. Because what if that's the only location we get? So Doreen went and borrowed money from her grandmother so she could afford to feed herself, and she got crackers and cheese. So I got crackers and cheese. Didn't even tell me what kind of cheese it was. You want a cracker with it?
No. It looks like a moist cracker. Wait, split this part again? It's not structural integrity.
Seedy. I'm really committed to the video.
You didn't try an olive yet.
Oh. Doreen can't afford olives. And while she was in the parking lot, she saw the vehicle of her neighbor who smacked her. Instead of confronting her, she wrote down her license plate. So at least now we'll be able to find out who she is. But our prediction is that it's Hannah. Only because there's no one else it could be, because we don't have anyone else's names. So now I have to read a little bit more to figure out where we're going next. Okay, we are at the creek where the dead bodies are. Just kidding, it's just a lot of bones. Doreen is wild, because tell me why she has no job, has no money, can only eat crackers and cheese. And then she's talking to the detective and she's like, "Please let me investigate. If I need anything right now, it's like something to do." Like, no girl, if you want something to do, you should get a job. But obviously the detective wants her to have nothing to do with the investigation because that's not her job. William. But what's more wild is she's not even looking for work. Like, she's not even trying. She's like, "I could go look for a job, but like, I don't know how. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do." But like, it'd be easy to just see her try, you know? Okay, so here's Mission Creek. And what's currently happening is she just found that ivory box in the river. And then when she went back with Mac, they found a ring. So that original arm that was found also had a ring on it. And now they found this other ring and they're thinking the ring was in the box and it must be associated with Betty. But when they go back to the creek to do some more investigating, she like takes a step in and talks about how cold it is, how ice cold it is. And keep in mind, it's warm spring. And what's funny is in a chapter earlier, I like kind of ignored it, but the phrase like glacier fed was used. And now in this chapter that I'm just in, it said it like 20 times. She was like, well, it's because the river is glacier fed. And like, that implies also that the lake is glacier fed. And it's very much not. It's just like calling this icy cold in any world is so nuts. And if it was just like a little chilly, whatever. But Mac is like concerned for her. He's like, get in a hot shower, like get some blankets on. It's gonna take hours to warm up. And listen, this is nitpicky, right? I get it. But if you're gonna set it in a real city and use a real creek, I think there needs to be more fact checking. But anyway, I lost Liam, I gotta go find him. And I really wish at this point in the book we had more mysteries or more characters, because the first book there was 2 huge mysteries and there was like this giant cast of 20, 30 characters. In this one, it's like just Betty and it seems like just Hannah. And I need her to do a little more digging and find out a little bit more. Gosh, it's hot out here. I guess that's why there's not many people. It's like mid-afternoon. Would normally be packed. We just got Liam a brand new mountain bike, so he's very excited to be trying it out. You were chasing him too? At this point in a cozy mystery, if I'm not enjoying it the way I'm not enjoying this one, like, I would stop. Especially when I don't think that the video associated with it is gonna be particularly interesting. But like, I think the more we go through the series, it might get more sophisticated. But at this point, it's just like, once Doreen solves the mystery, that's when we will solve the mystery. As soon as she gets all the clues, we then get all the clues. Just like the first one, it's not one you can really piece together and solve by yourself, except for, you know, the theory that I've made up out of nowhere. There is no real red herrings. There's not a lot going on. It's just constant dialogue with the same people and her being like, I wonder, I wonder, I wonder. But I think we'll have to convene with Rob and put all the clues together and see what he thinks. The opening of chapter 20, Doreen went somewhere interesting. It's the library. I think that's where she's going because I know she's been looking up like the news history of Betty going missing and she wants more information. So it says here, after Mac bought her some pizza, so we're gonna have to do that for dinner. It says she pulled into a very large parking lot. That's where I am. No. That serviced not only the library, but a skating rink, a fitness center, a swimming pool, and a restaurant. Let's figure out what she's doing here. If she's going swimming, we're going swimming. If she went to the library, we're going to the library. If she's going skating, we're going skating. Oh, she checked the times on the door that they're open and realized they closed at 9 o'clock. Is that true?
Let me check the library. Wait, let me find maps again.
Excuse me, sir.
It closed at 8, actually.
Wow, Dale. Okay, she's walking into the library. She sees a librarian. The librarian's name is Martha Cummings. The fact that we get her full name means she's probably going to be in another book in the series, and we're going to have a story all about her. Because why else do we need to know her full name?
Does she actually work here?
Let's go find Martha. Doreen walked over to the microfiche machine instead. I mean, all these news records would be online, but she pulled up old newspaper articles on the Betty Miles case. Saved it as a PDF. When she was done, she hopped up, walked to the fiction section, and grabbed 2 of her favorite thrillers. Why would you borrow thrillers you've already read? Okay, and then she checks out and she goes home. Here's a pool. Here's the fitness center. There's also a skating rink in there. I've taken you in there before. There's the restaurant. Here's the library. Let's go. Well, that was a fun detour. Since we're approaching the end and she has yet to go to the lake, I'm assuming she's not going to. And also, immediately after going to the library and getting the information, she didn't tell us or look into any of the information. She just now has it on her phone. And as soon as she feels like solving the murder, then she will. I think what I need is for somebody who's read the series to tell me if any of them take place at the beach, and then when I film another episode in August, I can pick the specific book and make a beach day out of it while I'm solving that mystery. But they had 3 in stock, so I'm gonna scan through all of them and just see if the lake is mentioned and not spoil myself for any of the mysteries, because then I can pick it for myself. I think this is my favorite cover, Silenced in the Sunflowers, which is a weird title. Actually, let's cut to an official ranking of best covers and best titles. All right, we've got the classic S through C tier. I'm sure we could come up with more appropriate names if we've really thought about it. C could be like No Bed of Roses. A could be like Fresh as a Daisy, because that's not perfect, but like it's cute. What other flower related idioms do we have? Actually, let's make No Bed of Roses B. And the lowest tier can be Nip It in the Bud. Like, stop it, it's ugly. And S tier is gonna be, ooh, what about In Full Bloom? Like, it's just perfect. Okay, I am embarrassed to say I didn't realize that the titles were done in alphabetical order. A, Arsenic and the Azaleas, and then B, Bones and the Begonias, C, Corpse and the Carnations, Dagger and the Dahlias, Evidence in the Echinacea. And we're gonna rank them, but the ranking might not be fair because like maybe there's not that many flowers that start with E, and she had to be really creative with it. And we are proud of her for figuring out all of the alliterations, but is it a good title or not? Arsenic and the Azaleas, I think, is just the perfect way to kick off the series. Very foreboding. Everyone kind of knows what azaleas are, so it works. Bones and the Begonias, I think is still good. Familiar with the flower, Bones still sounds just as sinister. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm putting that in Full Bloom because I just feel like there are going to be worse ones. I've downloaded all of these. I have not looked at the titles any more thoroughly. Corpse in the Carnations, like corpse sounds more deadly than the actual story is gonna be. I actually want to put that down here. And I don't like the cover either, so maybe that's influencing it. Dagger and the Dahlias I like. I'm gonna put that in the top as well. I think I do like the weapon kind of ones. So Evidence in the Echinacea. Echinacea is kind of hard for some people to say, I'm sure. It's not the prettiest word to look at, and evidence is a little bit boring of a word, but it still gives you mystery vibes, so we're gonna put that in the A tier, or the Fresh as a Daisy tier. Footprints in the Ferns, I hate that. Fern is like a plant, and I feel like the footprints is more likely gonna be in the dirt around the ferns, and footprints just is not that exciting. Gun in the Gardenias. I do like that, but is it because I really like the cover too? No, I think I like that one a lot. Handcuffs in the Heather. Yeah, Heather's a flower, but it's also a name. Not the most exciting because handcuffs aren't really as well. I'm gonna put this down here. Ice Pick in the Ivy is interesting. I do like that it's a weapon. It's just okay. Jewels in the Juniper. Now that is not, maybe I should get closer. It's obviously not a weapon. Juniper is just okay. Killer in the Kiwis is interesting because that's implying that you found a human being who is the murderer in the garden. And kiwis, is that a flower or is it just the fruit? Because that doesn't grow here, and therefore I don't like that. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I'm just guessing it's because there's no other like plant that starts with a K. Lifeless in the Lilies. I kind of like, I like lilies, but lifeless is not an object. It's a state of being. Put that in No Bed of Roses. Murder in the Marigolds is kind of boring. That should probably be like the first one in the series. No, murder's okay. Murder we'll put in the second tier. Nabbed in the Nasturtiums. Nasturtian? I'm probably saying that wrong. I hate that. Don't put something that you can read as nasty in your cozy mystery book. Oft in the Orchids. Again, it's like implying the act itself and not the weapon or a clue. So that one's going down here. Poison in the Pansies. Perfect one. Love that. Brings it back around to the first book. Quarry in the Quince. Maybe I don't know what a quarry is. I thought a quarry was like a water thing. I would have said quarrel because like you're clearly saying other things. Like why not say we're fighting in the quince? I also don't think I know what quince is. So is it a fruit? Because of my own lack of education, I'm putting that in the bottom category. Revenge in the Roses. Now Rose is my middle name, so maybe I'm biased. I'm gonna put it in the second one. Evidence, murder, revenge, like it's all okay in this tier. Silenced in the sunflowers. Were you silent or were you silenced? Again, it's not an item. I'm gonna put it down here because it's not as exciting as revenge or murder or evidence. Toes up in the tulips. I'm sorry. We are not gonna have any foot related one higher up than nip it in the bud, even though I do like the word tulips. Oozy in the urn? That's wild. There's probably just not that many interesting U type things. And there's a gun right on the cover. An urn takes you completely out of the garden. Like that's not a flower, that's not a fruit. It doesn't really fit as well, but I don't totally hate it. Victim in the violets fits with, I think, this layer. So here is my final ranking. There's something in every tier nicely packed in there, and I think that's nice. Let me know which ones you absolutely disagree with in the comments below. You're allowed one move. If you think one of them I got completely wrong, you're allowed to change it. And now I'm gonna reorganize just based on cover, and this is gonna be fast and dirty. I do think the hot pink and the green is fine. I hate this purple, not as much as I hate this red and green though. The purple, pink, and green is better than the red in the bottom one, you know what I mean? This one I love. The pink and the navy is really pretty. This one, the green is nice, but I really don't like that burgundy kind of brown, so I'm putting it down here. I love this one a lot. The white flowers around the edge and the purple tone in the middle. Okay, like a similar purple. I love this one too. I'm gonna put it here. This one I love. The pink and gray is really pretty. Blue and orange, I'm gonna put here, really pretty. This one's really pretty. Put it down here. That one's okay. I don't know what about it. I don't love the brown in the background, but like all the sunflowers just make it so pretty. And then this tulip one is so pretty. Right here, I think is also gonna go right here. So hey, I like more of the covers than I don't. Okay, anyway, back to the vlog. I think I'm just so bored by this book that I'm inventing a romantic subplot. I don't know if Mac and Doreen are actually supposed to be romantic interests for each other, but there's this page where she says, "See, I'm not so stupid as you would like me to be." And he goes, this is how I read it, okay? "You're not stupid at all. You really need to toss your ex-husband's words out the window. You know that, right? You're still hanging on to his attitude towards you." Like as in he just wants to compliment her, and like he feels like she wasn't appreciated by her last partner. But then I picked up the audiobook for a second to help me get through this so I could finish it by the end of the day. And I re-listened to that chapter and it didn't sound like that at all in the narrator's words. I feel like this is gonna be one of those like will they, won't they kind of series, and they literally never will. Which is fine because honestly, they don't have the personalities to carry. No character in here has the personality to carry the book. Like literally this isn't, I've watched other people do these like solving mysteries in a day and they create this character map and they talk about all of the characteristics of everyone. My characters have no characteristics. They have absolutely no personality. They're just dialogue. They're just there to exist for no other reason than to add a bunch of names to the story. I don't know who anybody is. I don't care about any of them and I want to finish the book.
Right.
Oh, Jesus.
Go!
No one was ready.
Wait, I got this.
No. This is this pad you got me last time.
For what?
The mystery.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Doreen?
Sure.
I'm gonna tell you what has happened and you solve the crime.
Okay. I don't have my bubble pipe or my monocle. How am I supposed to
I
do
know,
this?
and I couldn't find my magnifying glass.
Oh, God.
Okay, they have found bones in 4 different places. 4 different sets of bones. In the creek, they found an arm. In the garden, they found a bone that was kind of unidentified. They didn't even know if it was human for a while.
Okay.
Then they found a foot in the garden, but it was missing the big toe. And then they found arm bones in a box in a garden. Bones everywhere. There's one missing woman who went missing 30 years ago. Her name is Betty. First question, do you think it's her bones?
No.
Oh. She was known to wear really fancy jewelry, and with the arm bone, they found a fancy ring.
Okay.
And then once they found a box, they found another ring with the box.
Okay.
So they think that it's Betty's.
Okay.
One of them had a ruby in it. She was a runaway, so she would like go missing all the time and then come back and it was no big deal. So this time she went missing 30 years ago and she's never come back. Then Hannah is best friends with Betty back in the day. We found out that Betty's dad is like a criminal and he ran a jewelry business.
Okay.
When she went missing, a bunch of his jewels were missing too, I think.
Okay.
So now what do we think happened to Betty?
Well, obviously Betty was in cahoots with him. She either bought or stole jewelry from him.
Okay.
And then he found out. I think he had a partner that came.
Like Hannah?
Yeah. And she's trying to play like she's Betty's best friend. Really, she doesn't like Betty at all.
Oh.
She's trying to cover her own tracks.
Okay, I'm going the opposite direction and I think Betty and Hannah were involved.
Oh, okay.
And then I think if Betty was working with her dad, I think her dad was trying to commit like insurance fraud. And so he gave her all of this jewelry.
Oh,
and he was
reported
like,
stolen.
and then reported stolen.
Okay, yeah. They
Who
didn't
killed
believe.
her? And if they wanted the jewelry, why would they then throw away all her bones with jewelry on it? If they wanted the jewelry.
Well, what if it's Betty actually ran away and that's not actually her bones?
He solved the mystery. The only reason that Betty would be buried or be found with the jewels is if the person who killed her wasn't doing it for the jewels. So it can't be her dad. So that's why I think it was Hannah, and that's why I think it was an act of, what's it called? What's it called?
Act of passion?
A crime of passion. Hannah wanted to be with Betty, but Betty
Didn't want to get married.
didn't want to get married. So Hannah just killed her.
Yeah. Or maybe she was trying to break up with her.
Oh. Betty was trying to dump
Or
Hannah.
what if Betty told Hannah that she actually liked his dad?
Who's dad?
The jewelry that was actually presents from her dad. And she put there so that only her dad would know that it's Betty.
Bro, I gotta finish this book. That better be the plot. Okay, we're headed home now and getting pizza. I've gotten some more information. Feels like way too late in the book to be giving this much information, but we've met this guy, or we've heard about this guy named Brian. He is dead, but he used to do landscaping for Mac and his mom's garden. And they're talking about how like the roses they used to grow there started to die and they replaced it with, I think it was the begonias. And maybe the death of the flowers was because there was a dead body in there, you know? And so we learned that Brian is from this like well-to-do founding family of Kelowna. And then there's two like rich families, the Thoreaus and the Lansdowns. And Hannah is from one of them, Brian is from one of them. And after all of Doreen's sleuthing, she finds out that Betty was also part of one of the families, but she had a different name because like her parents were never married and she never claimed that family or something like that. It's much later. I'm finally about to finish this very average book and it hasn't really given me anything more and therefore I can't give you much of anything more. Let me think. We did prove that Hannah was the one that slapped Doreen. There was a moment when there was a news reporter at Doreen's house and her name was Sybil and she's like the niece of Hannah. She was everyone's just trying to get her to stop talking about Betty. And the news reporter's cameraman's name was Robert. And I'm pretty sure we had a Robert in the first book, but he died. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. Is this even resurrected? Is it a family member? Did Dale just forget she had another character with that name the book before? That's the most likely. And it really stands out to me because my husband's name is Robert. Guess we're still wondering all the things we were wondering before. I just don't see any other avenue that this could go. We're wondering who killed Betty, why Betty had the jewels on her, and if all the bones are Betty's and why they're scattered everywhere. I don't know why we're wondering that because like the answer is because whoever killed her didn't want the body parts to be found. It's all leading to Hannah, and in chapter 26 we're gonna find out the truth, I think, because there's only 2 chapters left. And naturally Doreen still has to end up in a life-threatening situation at the end because that's just how this goes. I promise I would not be posting this video if I hadn't literally invited you all to buddy read this with me and promised you a full spoiler video. I don't think I've even told you in this video, this is a full spoiler video. Hopefully you figured that out on your own. Let's discover the truth. Is there a part of the mission that you would consider run down and like a bad part of the mission?
Just down by the end of KLO, like behind, if you hit Lakeshore, that place, I mean, it's all like really old.
Okay. I just feel like they're implying, we're talking about the richest part of town, and they keep being like, there's this one street that's like run down and bad news and like, don't go there without a bodyguard. It's like, what are you talking about? It was Hannah. Are we all shocked? Hannah killed Betty. Betty was sleeping with Hannah's dad.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
I was right.
You were right. You didn't read a single page of this book. You guys, you don't even need to read these books to know what's happening. She said, you hated Betty, didn't you? Absolutely hated her. The thing is, I don't know why. Because she was sleeping with your dad? Were you jealous? Was Daddy also sleeping with you? Or were you upset for your mother's sake? What? Oh, and Hannah's like, he wasn't abusing her. She wanted it. I forgot to mention, Hannah and Betty were like 16, 17, I think, when all of this happened. And she got Brian, the gardener, to bury the body. You and Betty were lovers. You wanted to be with her, but at the same time she was sleeping with your father. The ultimate betrayal. No way you would let your lover become your stepmother.
We were both right?
I was right. Betty was sleeping with Hannah and Hannah's dad. And the way that Doreen just got her to like confess, she just got a little Legally Blonde moment where she got to say something smart and manipulate somebody into confessing. So the whole thing is the begonias were like dying because the body parts were hid under them, and I guess begonias are a really sensitive flower, and so she was saying stuff about it and like trying to catch Hannah's confession by like saying the wrong thing about flowers. So Hannah would go, and you call yourself a gardener? Everyone knows these tulips are so sensitive, I could never put a body under there. And it's like, oh, she confessed. Okay, but Hannah didn't mean to kill her. I guess they were just in a heated argument and she killed her, suffocated her. And then Brian, the gardener guy, landscaper guy, caught the murder. And he also happens to be Betty's uncle. You know, I didn't see all the family connections, probably because I didn't care. So it had nothing to do with the jewelry. He set it up to look like a robbery. Brian started blackmailing Hannah's dad because he knew that Betty was sleeping with him. And so then he got all the jewelry. It's very weird because Doreen is saying like she feels bad for Hannah, and she's like, you can tell Hannah is really sad and never meant to hurt her. Like, she murdered her best friend / lover. What are you talking about? Oh, and now Hannah's about to try to kill Doreen to keep the secret. A life-threatening situation. Didn't see that coming. But Mac is here to save the day. And that's it. The book ends with a confession. What a predictable, apparently, plot. Feeling good about my predictions. I did, in fact, solve the mystery before Doreen because there was really no other theories that you could have as the reader. But I don't know if a cozy mystery is the one where you need to put all the things together. Like, I really don't know what other people are looking for in this genre. And this is why I do see why people are telling me to do other mystery books where I can actually solve it and feel that sense of accomplishment. Because it seems like all the things that Doreen comes up with, she figures them out 2 seconds before the person reveals it. They're like, yeah, I did do that. Like, how did she guess any of these things? I don't know. You don't really get to know the characters very well, and you don't really get to know their thought process really well. What are you left with? Clearly, it's not beautiful, atmospheric Kelowna setting, because I barely got that either. I cannot tell you what I just spent 270 pages reading. just dialogue. Do you know Betty? Do you know Hannah? Who was she? When did she die? I don't know. Go ask the bird. Anyway, this is definitely a waste of a video, but if you stayed the whole time, I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. It'll be better, more interesting, I promise.